Hi, this is Father Louis Scurti with Friends of the Word, and we are in the process of another segment on that wonderful woman, St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, patron of immigrants throughout the world. And at this segment, we have an immigrant. We'll talk to him in a few seconds. I'd like to introduce my guests. It's Frank Fontino, Monsignor Paul Bocchicchio, whom you've met before, and Eustace Wolfington. He is would you be the production coordinator of this? What is your title?
That's good enough.
Okay, that's good enough. So that's what he is, and you know me. Okay, let's start with the immigrant.
Thank you.
Tell me when you came from Italy to the United States?
I was born in Palo de Col, which is a region in Bari, La Puglia area. And,
I was in Bari for Holy Week a few years ago.
You must have ate well.
I ate well. I prayed well.
It
It was
great.
magnificent.
That's
Okay, thank you. You brought it all back, and I tasted it again.
So I was born there, and we left. I was born in 1960. I lived in Bari for 4 years. Left Napoli, and arrived here in America 12 days later. And I was 4 years old. So
Yeah.
I do remember a few little things. One of them is, and I have proof because I've got pictures from the ports of Naples leaving. I came here on the Christopher Columbus.
Oh, no, another
Isn't it?
patron.
And we arrived here, and I saw the Great Lady in the river, and it was amazing. So I felt that immigrant feeling, you know. Parents didn't have anything, you know, other than a few shekels. Lived with my grandparents until my father got up and rented a home, then bought a home, worked all his life.
The immigrant story.
The immigrant story.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and went to school, graduated, and then worked for a very powerful architectural firm here in New York. Most of the buildings along this whole Central Park West and South and everywhere else they built.
God bless you.
I was very fortunate. And then I opened up my own firm in 1988. And here I am.
Wow. How did you get roped into this wonderful event?
Columbus Foundation. I've been a member there for, it's going to be 20 years. And a friend that I helped get into the foundation, also by the name of Nicholas Netter, introduced me, and then I met Gilda, and I used this, and here we are.
Beautiful. Yeah. What do you know of Mother Cabrini?
Well, I lived in Brooklyn, Bensonhurst.
Okay,
so there is a Mother Cabrini.
Blood is there.
Yeah, which my mother-in-law is, she's dedicated to that church. And I often visited, and honestly speaking, until you've introduced me to Mother Cabrini, I really didn't know much. I knew of Mother Cabrini, but not the history and the passion that all of you speak of.
And you needed an Americana to introduce.
I needed an Americana, see. But it's amazing the power that she took on in terms of my life. So I started, praying towards. Eustace gave me a prayer that he enjoys reading every day, which I do. Just the fact of just the fact of knowing who she was, and she is the patron of immigrants. That brought a joy, and the unveiling, the Columbus Foundation had an unveiling of the Mother Cabrini statue in Battery Park.
Battery, yes.
So during COVID, which was symbolized a lot.
Talk about that statue, just because I want the audience to go online, Google it. We'll have a picture of it. Yeah. Tell us a little more about the statue.
So the statue, the Mother Cabrini Foundation actually sanctioned, along with the governor's office, a certain location to install the statue, and the Columbus Foundation was supportive of it. Angelo Vivolo, who was the past president, now a chair of the founding governors, he was very instrumental of creating and unveiling that statue in Battery Park. And it's really beautiful because where it's located, it actually faces the Statue of Liberty and the open waters to see it come in. So it symbolizes the power of the immigrants and the creation of this country.
Yeah, and it's so beautifully positioned, but the sculptor, I don't know who the sculptor is. Do you know his name?
I actually did. I'm embarrassed that I don't
That's right,
recall,
but we'll find out. But it's powerful because she's a young woman. She has people on her side. The wind is coming toward her on the boat. Just beautiful.
It's a powerful structure. Yes, it is. Symbolizes everything. So I had the pleasure of being on a boat, not dating back to Mother Cabrini days, but actually feeling that coming to America. Yeah.
Did you guys know each other before Mother Cabrini?
No.
Wow. So she brought all of you together, all of us together.
All of us together.
God bless her. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we open it up? It's a round table, so anybody wants to toss something out?
Yeah, I'll talk about one thing about
Go
it.
ahead.
Because I think the statue is really a fantastic thing, because it still tells people of Mother Cabrini, but not about Mother Cabrini. And I think everyone should look at the statue as step one of telling her story, not the end of her story. And I think maybe Mother Cabrini ordained it. I don't know, that the statue and then the movie would come, back to back. But I'm just very, I believe very strongly that every Italian American should get the whole world, but especially Italian Americans, should get to know Mother Cabrini, get to know everything about her, and hopefully this movie will be the thing that will enlighten them to really want to learn more and more.
Absolutely. The strength of a woman, that can't overemphasize that. The strength of a woman at the turn of the century who had faith, deep, deep, deep faith in Mary and Jesus Christ and the Sacred Heart of Jesus. She had charisma, she had talent. I mean, she was educated as a teacher, so she always remained a teacher. But a woman who is a leader in our community and still is as patroness of immigrants. Don't you think, Paul?
Yeah, I did see the monument.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that impressed me was not only the monument itself, but the etchings around the monument, which was really the whole history of Mother Cabrini from her birth to her death. And it was very well done. And as Frank mentioned, I think the symbolism of her looking toward the Statue of Liberty, looking toward the harbor, I think was striking. And the other thing, I heard this, that the boat, if you look at the boat, it looks like the paper boat.
Oh, yes,
That she used to put her, in her missionary thing.
Just recall that little story with her making the boats.
Yeah, it was, in fact, that's where her fear of water came from. Because when Mother Cabrini was a child, she was about 8 years old, she used to make paper boats and put flowers in them. And they were missionaries going off to China, and she fell in the water and almost drowned. And it was remarkable that she crossed the ocean 20 times, despite her fear of water. Another interesting fact about that not too many people know is that there was a nun one time who read a biography of Mother Cabrini at the time Mother Cabrini was canonized, and was inspired by the fact that she started a missionary order of women, which was almost unheard of. And with that inspiration, so did she, and it was Mother Teresa.
Oh, isn't that fascinating? I've always thought of them so similar. Oh, beautiful.
And as you mentioned before, another reason why Mother Cabrini is relevant for our times is, definitely because of the immigration question, but also education, healthcare, the role of women, the care of the poor. She's really a saint for our times. Because she showed leadership as a woman and accomplished great things as a woman. And I think she'd be an inspiration for women, who would just follow in her footsteps.
And she wasn't like a demure wallflower. She dealt with major people, major male figures, bishops, captains, police, and she saw it through, and she held her own, eye to eye. You mentioned the boats, and I want to go back to something I earlier said. Her father used to show her videos of missionaries. That wasn't true. He read stories, and I think the videos were, while I read that, I'm picturing video stories, but he told her stories, and the other children in the family, about missionaries and how they would go off to different countries and evangelize. So that's where that inspiration came from. Do you know any of the buildings here in New York as an architect that go back to her time?
No, I don't know any of the historic buildings, but I've read of them, but I haven't seen them personally. But I noticed that there was a lot of history, a lot of beauty to some of those buildings.
Yes.
Even though they didn't have architectural details and whatnot, and some of them did.
Right.
But there was some beauty to it because of what it symbolized, and that is the power, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
the point of, you mentioned that this woman, as a young girl, she was sick. She got over her sickness and then was confident and was positive. She had a mission that she wanted to fulfill, and she fulfilled it. And not everyone is born with that. Everyone obviously is given that gift. So she fulfilled that. Following the her sainthood. It's what it is. It's powerful.
The fact that she goes to the bishop, says, I want to start a school. No, I need a hospital. Oh, okay, I'll do a hospital. I mean, you read about it and you say, well, how did this happen? All of a sudden, she's building a hospital and pulling in doctors from other hospitals for her hospital, the Columbus Hospital. She did that all the time. You need a school? Okay. The bishop from Costa Rica wants me to build a school in his town. So we went there, we built a school. Ma, how did you do that?
I think that she actually went in, not only with confidence, but she went in that it wasn't a selfish act. It was an act for community. It was an act for gathering people to serve the community in a good way. She had, there was a scene before he came in here, I saw the trailer quickly. But I noticed that she was in front of an entire group of very wealthy men asking to purchase a building so they can have an orphanage be, constructed and renovated. I mean, how do you do that in those days?
Right.
And what she did was, I learned, at least what I've got out of it, was the fact that she used her tender love and passionate way to lure men and convince them this is a good thing to do. So that part, in terms of today's society, is the symbol, is the message.
That's even stronger. When Mother Cabrini went to finance the hospital, the American bankers wouldn't finance her. She had to go to Rome, go to the Italian Senate to get the money. And we learned that story from Mother Maria when we were over there, because I wasn't even in some of the books, but the historians keep. She busts into the Senate and demanded that they help her finance a hospital for the Italian immigrants in New York. And even then, they didn't want to do it. They made her hock everything she had to build the hospital.
It's interesting.
West Park. In fact, the great thing about West Park.
Talk a little about West Park for the audience.
West Park. Can you do a better job than I can on that?
I can supplement, but just
Yeah. No, you do.
well, especially in the way it's portrayed in the movie, Archbishop Corrigan was caught between a rock and a hard place because many of the wealthy people did not want the orphanage up in Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
So he knew the Jesuits were selling West Park.
And they were selling it because they couldn't get water there. That's a key piece here. Go ahead.
And so I think it was $1,000.
Well, so.
When he took them, Mother Cabrini up there, and part of the plot of the movie shows how she persistently went after finding the water, and she found it. Yeah. And the same is true, by the way, the orphanage in Kearney. I think she got the land very cheap because they couldn't find water, and she found water.
Same show in Denver. She bought a mountain in Denver.
Yes.
And they didn't have any water. And the first day she went up and said to one of the nuns, she had a vision from Our Lady, move that rock, they touch the water, and it's still running.
And that, yeah, exactly. The water's still running. Yes, yes.
Power
yeah.
of faith.
Yeah. But she had a miraculous gift to find things. I mean, we often say St. Anthony's the patron of the lost thing. But you read her story, she'd send a nun to go get money to pay for the bread that's being delivered. The nun goes in the drawer, and there's no money. She said, go back to the drawer. There's enough money in there. She said, I just look, go back. She went back, and there was enough money. But that happened more than once. The story about the key and on the boat, the certain section of the boat was locked up, and they couldn't get into it, where she wanted to pray with her sisters. And she said to the bursar, go back and get the key. He said, I looked everywhere, I couldn't find it. She says, go back and you'll find it. And sure enough. So, wow. You and I don't know if you can. I can't do that.
I had a chance to speak to a gentleman who was also an immigrant, who was asked to do some work for Cabrini College when it first started. And he was the accountant. And they came up short of the money that the accountant's supposed to have. He thought, well, maybe I made a mistake, I don't know. But he said to the sister, sister, we're short $10,000. She walked in and came out with a box of cash with $10,000. And she said, I've been saving this, she said, because we don't want to tell everybody all the money we have, because they wouldn't want to give to us.
One of the miracles, maybe Paul, you have a closer link to this. One of the miracles that was really attributed to her, that really led toward her sainthood. You remember the blind boy?
Yeah.
You want to tell about that story?
Yeah, a priest told this story a number of years ago, actually in Kearney. And he said a baby was born, and it was 1921, so it was 100 years ago, in Columbus Hospital, and the nurse used the wrong solution to clean the baby's eyes and burn the corneas out. And the sisters prayed for 24 hours, and the corneas grew back through the intercession of Mother Cabrini. And 16 years later, that boy carried the banner at her beatification. And the priest who told the story said, I was that boy.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. That's great. She was canonized in 1946.
Yes.
And in Rome. That must have been a fantastic experience. And if you go to the shrine, there are many shrines, the Cabrini shrines, but the one in Fort Washington, they have a nice display of who was there. And that wonderful experience that must have been.
One of the things that I wanted to mention, and Eustace just reminded me because he showed me the card, we're the only parish that I know of, I'm at St. Francis in Hoboken, that has a novena to Mother Cabrini every week. When I first went there, like with many novenas, the prayers were, very syrupy, and they didn't capture Mother Cabrini, so I rewrote the novena. It's a short prayer, because I wanted to capture what she really did. I mean, they said, in the old novena, it said a great deal about the Sacred Heart, but not how the Sacred Heart was manifested in her work.
Want to read it?
Oh,
please.
Yeah, so this is the prayer that I wrote, and we've been using it. St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, you showed immense love and concern for the stranger, the orphan, and the immigrant. You reflected Jesus' call to recognize him in the needs of others. Your missionary zeal made Christ present in the midst of fears and anxieties of those who left their homeland to come to new shores with their hopes and dreams. We gather in this time of prayer to ask your intercession as the heavenly patroness of immigrants. Enable us to see Christ in the immigrant, the stranger, and the poor. Help us to serve him by welcoming others in need, working for justice for those who are treated unfairly, and to be the light of Christ in the lives of those who live in darkness and despair. And may the heart of Jesus, burning with love for all, inflame our hearts as it did yours. Amen.
Thank you. Perfect.
We say that prayer before every meeting.
Excellent.
In our chapel.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We're going to conclude this section on a very inspiring note. Thank you for joining us, and we might have another segment in a few minutes, but we ask you to join us in the next segment. My guests have been Mr. Frank or Franco Fontino, Frank Fontino, Monsignor Paul Bocchicchio, classmate of mine, and of course Eustace Wolfington, and myself, Louis Scurti. Thank you for joining us. Let me hear from you, fatherlouscurti@hotmail.com. And the key is you pass this on to other people. It's to everyone who's an immigrant by heritage in the United States, and there aren't too many of us that are not. Thank you for joining us, and look for the movie. It's on Mother Cabrini. We don't have a title yet, but it'll be there. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Frank. Thank you, Paul. Grazie tante. And Eustace, God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
And don't forget to tell them I had an Italian girlfriend.
Oh,